Hello friends, welcome to my Tales from Lockdown. Ketki Kothare Jaikar, welcoming you to my new story session. Friends, have you heard about Herman Melville, who wrote the famous novel Moby Dick? I read a few lines from there. For as this appalling ocean surrounds the verdant land, so in the soul of man there lies one insular Tahiti, full of peace and joy, but encompassed by all of the horrors of the half lived life. Friends, today I have brought you a story entitled Cinderella. This is Cinderella Part 1. Pushpa was referred to by some common friends. She had some matrimonial problem and wanted legal advice. One afternoon, she came to see my office. She appeared to be a very pleasant person but was shy, very soft spoken. Pushpa told me that she came from a rich parental family, married into a multimillionaire family of jewelers. However, due to her husband's adulterous behavior, she had left her matrimonial home about a month ago with Tejal, her 10-year-old daughter. She had taken this extreme step after tolerating her husband's adulterous behavior since her marriage. Tejal was growing up, and Pushpa did not want her young, impressionable daughter to grow up in this licentious atmosphere. All these years, her husband had been having flings outside the home, but of late he had become so brazen that he had started bringing women home and ordering Pushpa to vacate the bedroom. Pushpa had been brought up by a very fine father who had inculcated in her all the Gandhian values. She could not tolerate the fact that her husband had crossed all the limits of decency in spite of having elders in the joint family living in the house. She went to her widowed mother's house, but her mother and her sister did not support her decision to separate from her husband. They allowed us to stay for some time, but they justified her husband's adulterous behavior as being acceptable in their community. Her sister's husband had been having an affair with his secretary for the past 5 years, and she was okay by it. She was living in his house, spending his money, and life was going on for her. In fact, she had advised Pushpa to go back to the husband. However, Pushpa was firm on her decision to separate. Since then, Pushpa was on own with her little daughter. She sold her diamond ornaments and bought a small one-room kitchen flat in South Bombay. This was possible about 30 years ago. She did not agree with her sister's and mother's ideology and chose to live life on her own terms. She did not sever relations with them, but did not go to them without begging bowl. She met them socially and was very proper in her relations with them. However, she did not want any financial assistance from them. She had decided to stand on her own feet. After spending on the house, she needed maintenance for bringing up Tejal and maintaining herself. Pushpa, having married early, was not much educated. She was unable to get any office job. She was in her early 30s. Tejal was almost 11 years old by then. That was when she came to me for seeking legal help. Pushpa was very clear in her mind about she did not want a divorce. She simply wanted maintenance. A woman can choose either to have a divorce petition, and in that divorce petition she can ask for maintenance, custody, everything. Or she can ask only for maintenance in a petition for maintenance under the Maintenance Act. So she wanted only maintenance for herself and the child. She was a very smart woman. Although she was not much educated, she was a very practical woman. She knew that all the business was in her husband's uncle's name, and even the residential flat at Marine Drive was in his aunt's name. Although she did not have any formal education, she had a lot of business sense, and she was able to tell me the details of the extent of their business, their branch office, the extent of their properties, the extent of their public charities. She even gave me a copy of the souvenir where the donations given by their husband's family were publicized. We filed a suit for maintenance in the High Court about 20, 30 years ago when the family court had not started functioning. On the first day of the case, her husband came to court looking very shabby and poor. A person who traveled to Brussels every 6 months was unconvincing in his attempt to appear poor. The High Court judge saw through the charade and passed an order for 12,500 per month for Pushpa and 5,000 per month for the child. Of course, the husband was not going to give her everything on a platter. He was going to make her run for her money. He filed an appeal and the amount was reduced to 7,500 per month for Pushpa and 3,000 for the child. There was a lot of pressure on Pushpa from the so-called community fathers, forcing her to withdraw the case and go back home. They felt this was a bad precedent for women from their community. They would be encouraged to leave their matrimonial homes on frivolous grounds like adultery. This adultery had been going on merrily for so many generations. Pushpa was adamant. She was prepared to face a society in defense of her principles. Under the docile, quiet exterior, there was a tough cookie. It was not easy for Pushpa to come to terms with the sudden change in her financial status. She was not going to compromise on Tejal's education, classes, tuition, school activities. Pushpa started traveling by bus, local trains, and would spend on a taxi only in extreme emergency. Tejal was too small to appreciate their changed circumstances. All her rich friends from school were the same. Only she and her mummy had very little money. It used to be very difficult for Pushpa to explain to Tejal their sudden financial change. The only silver lining to the dark cloud was that Pushpa's husband used to send the maintenance checks to my office every month regularly. Years flew by. Pushpa had fought the society, fought the rising prices, worked really hard, made jams, pickles, supari, greeting cards, put sari falls, done all sorts of odd jobs. But now age was catching up with her. The woman who was born with a golden spoon was tired. She was tired of playing the beggar maid. Youth has its own power to take on the world on your terms. Now Pushpa was over 50 and was suffering from high blood pressure, diabetes, arthritis. Her eyes too had become weak. She could not do the stitching and embroidery anymore. Her maintenance case had not come up for final hearing and disposal. She was finding it extremely difficult to cope up with the rising costs of living. She was not able to do any physical work like cooking for parties, etc. By now, Tejal had done her MBA. However, Pushpa did not allow her to take up a job in a big company since working woman was not acceptable in their community. Tejal got a job in a private office, but not for what she was qualified. The only thing that was worrying Pushpa was Tejal's marriage prospect. Pushpa was very insecure of marrying off her daughter outside her community. Being a single mother, she felt that her responsibility was much more. She did not have her husband's support in finding a match for Tejal. Being a vegetarian, her choice of boys was very limited. The boys were very orthodox and wanted very docile, educated, but housebound girls. They did not want working girls. Over and above, Pushpa's separatist status was the biggest stumbling block in the marriage talks. No boy wanted to take the risk of marrying a girl whose mother had dragged her husband to court. Tejal felt humiliated that in spite of being an MBA, the boys were rejecting her because her parents had separated. She was increasing in age with no sign of marriage proposal, and she was tired of spending injudiciously and cringing for the smallest of luxuries. She had lived in the lap of luxury for 10 years of her life, and now she had to live like a hermit. Friends, I'll continue in the next part. Part 2. Cinderella Part 2.